Dr. Smith, physical therapist, and I'm going to actually preface this video by saying that some of these topics are going to be a bit controversial. You may agree or disagree with me, but I'm actually expecting the majority of PTs to disagree with me with this video. But I'm going to talk about why I actually talked two people out of becoming PTs this week, and the transparency that needs to be brought up in the physical therapy profession, how PT needs to be more transparent, and the concepts I'm going to talk about need to be transparent among educators, students, practicing clinicians, and pre-PTs. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is how schools do not train you to know how much your license bills. Now, if you've watched my other YouTube videos on Part B billing for Medicare or Part A billing for home care, you can clearly see this discrepancy where the school has taught you to be an assembly line worker, to go take that new grad job at the new grad rate, though your license bill is the same as somebody with 100 plus years of experience, and you're making, $60,000, whatever. Well, your friend who understands the job market or wanting to travel is making twice as much as you because they know how much their license has billed. So that's a huge problem because we can see the discrepancy here. Even when we look at the average pay for PT, we can see that huge discrepancy here. And again, getting here isn't hard. I got here pretty fast out of school. And people get even twice as high as this doing PRN, doing travel, and so on. So getting here isn't hard. But if you don't understand the market and your school tells you kind of just to be that assembly line worker PT, where you're getting paid $27 to $33 an hour, the same as actually the PTAs are getting paid, but your license is generating in that clinic $100 an outpatient, or you're doing starter cares, and again, you're getting paid $70 for something that's generating the agency over $200 and profit. Now with the new changes, each starter care you do is going to generate over $1,700 in profit, and maybe you're only getting $100 or less for that. If you don't know these rules, schools need to teach them so you can get paid more, especially what we have now with the next topic I'm going to, which is the student debt. So when we look at the student debt, we can see that the APTA underreports student debt. The APTA, and I'm an APTA member, but I didn't respond to the survey, and I know a lot of people that didn't either. But we can see their average is 96,000. Before, I believe it was around 80. They've actually upped it a bit, but it's still underreported. When we look at Student Loan Planner and other financial advisors, the actual average student loan debt, and this is average, which means it takes into account people that didn't have any debt at all, so the number is actually much higher, is 154,000. What I'm seeing now is most people at 200, even 300,000 plus coming out, and unfortunately they're not knowing the job market because schools didn't teach it to them or teach them how to build their own business or how to use money to make more money or stocks or financial literacy. And if you're 200,000 plus in debt and you're making 70 to 80, or you just can't make the 100 because you're stuck in an area that's oversaturated, then no, I don't recommend it because it's financial suicide. You don't want to graduate with a mortgage on a starter home for something that's not going to be able to pay it off in the long run. I mean, with interest now at 7%, it's not really financially worth it. There's other fields that are better, and even those fields are getting oversaturated too. But PA, for example, the tuition's going up, but the pay is still there. There's more lateral moves. One of the issues I personally had is, as somebody that had a master's of public health before becoming a DPT, is that every other medical profession kind of valued my MPH, where the DPT was like, oh, we don't really care about public health. And now they're starting to claim that, they know public health and shit like that. But when I was applying for jobs out of school, they're like, oh, we don't care about your MPH. And I'm not saying that you should because it doesn't build anything. But I'm just saying that if you want to do more with population health and be in a more medical role, then I recommend doing something more medical such as PA or MD-DO. And the reason I say that as well is the average MD-DO salary is, student loan is, 180 to 200 with cost of living. Sometimes you can get up to, 400, 500 if you go to a Caribbean school. But again, you are in training longer, but the payback is more. So anything you put time and money into, you're going to have a nice return on it. But the DPT is not the best return on investment. And you can even Google this and see what number works for you and where it's valued. The third thing I'm going to say on why I talk people out of not becoming a DPT was they're like, oh, well, I want to be a doctor, but I don't know what kind. Well, if that's just the issue, I recommend that you shadow a lot of professions, figure out what you want to do. Do not get a DPT because you want to become a doctor, because at times you're going to feel it's undervalued and deflated outside of academia. Because what's going to happen is, yes, if you're your own cash pay practice or you're doing your own thing, yes, you earned it. You can use that title. I tell people all the time to use the title. But what's going to happen is when you're in other settings, they're going to be like, oh, you're going to confuse the patient, though you're not really confusing the patient. But they'll just say stuff like that because they expect you to be a walking service or somebody that just does lower extremity exercises, and they don't respect you or your education because, again, your education has evolved over time. So if you're hard set on, that doctor title, then it's honestly not worth it in my opinion. The last thing I'm going to say, and this is why I think you should be a DPT if this is a yes for you, is if you envision your life 10 years from now and you can't see yourself doing anything else but, doing orthopedics such as soft tissue, exercise, and so on, stuff that you feel that you need a DPT to do, then yes. Or if you want to work with spinal cord patients, if you want to work with brain injury patients, if you want to work in a variety of things where you can kind of laterally transfer, such as acute care, where you can do wound care. So, a lot of people don't know PTs do wound care. I did a wound care clinical and a surgical ICU. So, that gives you the option to transfer. If that's what you want, that flexibility, that versatility, and you want the ability to make this much money and constantly, have a job as long as you're not in a high demand area, then yes, I do recommend it. But I believe there's other topics that I brought up that aren't being addressed. And unfortunately, we can see the APTA underreporting student debt. And again, there's a lot of people that do think the APTA kind of put the DPT out there as a marketing scam, because I'm going to get a lot of shit for saying this, but you don't need the DPT to rehab knee replacements. You don't. You decrease the popliteal guarding, you range it, you do the concentric, the eccentric, blah, 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 the protocol, and so on. And what you're going to find in that setting, especially if you have other desires to kind of do your own thing, if you want to have your own cash-based practice, then yes, it's fine. But if you kind of want to, like be employed or whatever, you're going to get annoyed having to follow specific protocols, being told yes, being told no. So that is why I talked two people out of becoming PTs this week. Now, again, if you want to have flexibility to support a hobby and you're not making that much money right now, then yeah, it's fine. You can pick up travel work. You can always, pick up a job. But if you're not that passionate about it and you're bored on your clinicals or burnt out on your clinicals, hell, I had people from my PT school quit after the first clinical because they're like, fuck this. And honestly, I don't blame them for that, because if I was doing outpatient ortho right now and it was 3 patients an hour or 4 patients an hour, I'd be like, fuck that too. I mean, I do home care because A, I make over $100,000, and B, it allows me one-on-one time with my patients. It allows me to dictate the plan of care. So there's kind of different niches to find and what you want to do. But ultimately, I would say right now, unless you can do it for free or cheap, or it's the only thing you want to do, I honestly cannot recommend it.